Number two.
I didn't really grow up in a traditional Christian household. I think that if you asked my mom, she would tell you that we were Christian, but we never went to church, and God was someone who you just thanked for the food at my grandmother's house, and only at my grandmother's house, nowhere else. So before I knew God, I was very depressed. My family split up. I lived with my dad, my sister lived with my mom. And throughout that very difficult time, my dad would tell me that he feels like something was missing. He thought that maybe that thing was God. And in that really difficult place, we started searching for God. We tried to go to different churches in the area. We tried a Catholic church, and that was overwhelming. We get there, and everyone's standing up and sitting down at the same time. Everyone's saying the same things right on cue. It's like we missed rehearsal. And so we decided that's probably not the place for us. So instead, we decided that we would keep exploring. And during that process of exploring, there was a day where my dad went out for a run. That was kind of his way of coping with stress. And he went for a run, and he never came back. I was by myself, just waiting for my dad to come home. And I can remember the sight of the cop car coming down the street and pulling into my driveway and knocking on my door to tell me the news. And not that long after, my mom came. She brought my sister. We stayed with our neighbor, and I stayed up the whole night, just in tears. That was the most alone I've ever felt in my life. While he was on his run, he got hit by a car, and he survived, but he had serious brain damage, and he was never able to come back home after that. So I moved back in with my mom, and I fell into this really, really depressed state. I was lost, I was confused, I was hurting. And it wasn't until high school that I started to remember my dad's words, saying that he thought that there was something missing. He thought maybe it could be God. And at some point I just thought enough was enough, and I need to go find this for myself. So I had some friends who went to a local youth group, and they invited me to go, and so I went. And I fell in love with it right away. It was such a welcoming place, like a home that was a little bit more whole than the home that I had at home, if that makes sense. I felt that depression start to slip away. I felt like I was being made new, that I was becoming whole again, and that there was some positive future ahead of me. I was first invited to City Life by my friend Alex. He and I used to be roommates in college, and when he went to grad school, he and a group of his friends started going to City Life. My first time at City Life was really, really interesting. I came in and was immediately greeted by people I had never met before, who made me feel like I had been there that whole time. And I was just so amazed by the quality of the worship and just the community of believers all there together singing God's praises. It was a really powerful experience. God raised me up from being the one to be able to serve the one. And the way that I get to do that at City Life is to serve on the production team. It's a place where I can interact with the worship and involve myself in the worship even though I'm not a musician, and that no one should ever let me on stage. It's a great opportunity to help spread the gospel, to help provide a place for people to encounter God in a very real way, in the same way that I encountered God when I first went to my youth group. Even though I know that God is with me, I still sometimes struggle with depression. It comes up every once in a while when things are difficult. It eats at me a little bit, but unlike before, I know that God's going to take care of it, that God provides, and that all I need to do is lean on Him, and everything else is going to be taken care of. That's how it's been in my whole journey as a Christian. And I've learned to really rely on that to get me through the hard times. City Life is the place that I chose to be baptized. There was a day where I was serving and running sound, and it was a baptism Sunday. And God had put on my heart, not a few weeks before that, that I was called to go all in. I was supposed to immerse myself in who He is and what His will is in my life. And I was wrestling with what that meant. It's a scary thing to try to go all in. So on that baptism Sunday, when Pastor Brad invited everyone, he says at the very end, looking out over the crowd, sermon's over, he says, there's someone out here who's ready to go all in. Today's your day. And so I started crying by myself at the soundboard. And I run out from behind the soundboard and I go find Bodie, who was leading the sound team at the time. I said, Bodie, I gotta go. And he's confused, but he goes back there and he lets me do my thing. So I run out there, I put on my complimentary shorts and City Life t-shirt that was 2 sizes too big, but that didn't matter. And I got baptized. And you realize that the God of the universe cares about you so deeply and that he desires a personal relationship with you. It's an incredibly humbling experience. I'm Bryon, and I'm the one.